Welcome to this year's memorial service. I'm Graham Shears, CEO of the Epilepsy Foundation, and I'm honoured to be here with you today. We gather to remember loved ones and celebrate their lives. We join with you as you reflect on the precious memories you have of them. At the Foundation, those lost to epilepsy are always in our thoughts. I hope this service brings you some comfort and peace.
Hello. I've been asked to speak a little about grief, to share some reflections with you. My words drawn from personal loss and experience as a celebrant, working with families to help them individually and together to say goodbye to the loved one they've lost in ways that speak both to their sadness and to their heartfelt gratitude. In the hope that this might in some way bring you some clarity in your steps along the path of grieving. And true, grief can be by its very nature when you're right in it, engulfing. And listening to the topic from within that very place for some understanding of and respite can simultaneously be confronting and also one of relief. The awareness deep in our heart that someone understands. There have, of course, been many books written on it of how grief appears, unfolds, the stages we might expect as we find ourselves in its wake, how we might cope with it and work through the uniquely intimate experience that loss brings. In all of this uncomfortable territory of our feelings and thoughts, whatever our personal situation may be, the sadness that we're living right through right now is the gentleness and the courage inherently found deep inside us. To give ourselves permission to say it is okay to be here at this point, in this unfamiliar and unwanted place. Within the stages and steps of what grief is, coming face to face with the practical how-tos and lessons to be gleaned from others' experiences of what they found in the midst of what we all go through is the way through for each of us. The very process of grieving and all the feelings that come and go along with the memories we hold dear informs us about what it was that loved the person we lost, what they would want for us. To gently, lovingly remember them, but not to stay put, but rather to get on with living in our ways, and in that appear the happiness inherent in each of the memories that flow naturally into our thoughts and awareness. To smile as we remember, letting those tears come, and allowing ourselves to know nothing is going wrong. Everything will be okay. Throughout our lives, from childhood, the adventures of first school days into the chaotic growth of teenage years, beginning work, our forming into adults, responsibilities, and on to older age and slowing down when our independence begins to fade, we each live constantly in change, laughing, crying, loving, learning and forgetting, taking up and letting go. We welcome each other with handshakes and warm hugs, gentle nods, familiar smiles and those wry winks of knowing. In telephone chats and tapping out of text messages or catching up when down the street, at local working bees or at a wedding or a funeral, as we always have together. And all through our years, however many or few, we talk and dream with that spark of enthusiasm, unique to each of us, about the things we love, that we want to do or have just done, that you might too. The skills we'll need to learn and talents we've gained along the way, the frustrations, setbacks, a broken bone, fears overcome. Looking ahead, life has so much, an hour together can be as if a holiday. Our plans for the future of love, a life partner, the magic in a soulmate, raising a family together, sharing journeys. One generation becomes 2 and 3, passing on life lessons, funny stories, well-founded legacies of work, life, careers and achievements. Birthday celebrations, chatting with neighbours, travels and raucous parties, holidays and adventures. That's what the richness of life is, full of beginnings, sometimes planned, thoughtfully put in place. at others chaotic, unintended, and right out of the blue. Then something comes into our life, to someone close, maybe earlier, maybe later. Changes in health, in their well-being. If quietly at first, as small steps, most times appearing slowly, even unnoticed, while at others more sudden in unexpected and scary ways. With beginnings always come endings. When we find we are saying goodbye and an unwanted new normal takes getting used to, if ever. Its hallmarks mean change, adjustment, taking heed where maybe we didn't want to before, so often finding us unprepared, tripping us up, but that's okay. It's who we are. Nothing is going wrong. When the person we have been so close to, so familiar with, is no longer there, the sound of their voice, remembering a story, how he always told it like that, her soft kiss on our cheek, or that rose in the garden, a good cup of tea, the much heralded Christmas pudding, and the cheer we enjoyed together when our team won. Saying goodbye, saying thank you, so often done in the small, mundane, yet so important ways, in familiar stories and laughter, around the kitchen bench, at friends' places, sharing a cup of tea. Amid all the sadness that is so personal, as we go over what happened, mixed with the threads of laughter and things we love doing together, we begin little by little to understand, to feel better in some deeper sense, at ease with the joy that comes in talking about the person, even though they're gone. And just like they would want us to do, we do get on with things, all the while knowing life is just a little bit different. There's a gap, but there's no need to fill it. For in those spaces comes a silence, whether for a few moments, which is most often is, maybe while walking or staring at a photo. And it supports us like a stream flowing through the seasons, as good news alters to not so good, and we understand a little better how life is. And when tears come without prompt, an awareness that our time together is not limitless as we imagined as children, that our emotions ride with us, and we learn it's wise to call out and ask for help to friends old and new, for someone to simply sit, to listen, to be our witness, that everything is okay. From when time to time those feelings or sadness arise, is the chance to gently pause for just a moment, to take a deep breath and let it out slowly. Then repeat it once or twice more, a little deeper, let it out for a little longer. And as you do, to notice the way those emotions change. They begin to lose a little of their power, like ripples on a pond when we throw a stone into the water. As they spread out, they also begin little by little to settle down. And given time, they gradually fade. The water calms, we can smile with the change. I hope you have found this helpful in some way. Thank you.
My name is Sally Douglas, and I'm the co-host of the Good Morning podcast. Like you all here today, I've lost a loved one to SUDEP. My lovely mum, Rose, passed away from sudden and unexpected death in epilepsy in November 2019. Her death was a huge shock to me and my family, and not a day goes by when I don't miss her warmth and her love and her affection. Mum developed epilepsy throughout her teens, and although she had tonic-clonic seizures, largely she managed them really well and never let it affect her life. She had a huge impact on my life, and not a day goes by when I don't miss her support, her compassion, and above all, her encouragement. Mum was very much a people person. She cared deeply about those around her and the issues close to her. She had a real curious streak, which I really miss, and that meant she was always digesting new information and exploring new ideas, a trait of hers that I like to think I carry forward. Before Mum's passing, I had absolutely no idea what SUDEP was, and none of our family members did either, and Mum certainly didn't. Needless to say, her passing was a huge, huge shock and surprise to us all. And I know that's something that many of you here today will understand very deeply. After Mum's passing, my grief was all-consuming. I had so many questions that were unanswered, and the pain was so intense, which again, I know that's something that you will all understand as well. During the dark days, I went back to this really beautiful quote that I'd love to share with you all. The source is unknown, but it brings me so much strength. There are some who bring light so great to the world that even when they have gone, the light remains. And I think that's just such a beautiful thought today to hold on to as we remember the loved ones that we've lost to SUDEP. Despite the immense pain of my grief and the unknowing, losing Mum really propelled me to create something that could help others in their grief and hopefully help them feel less alone. I started the Good Morning podcast with my friend Imogen to tackle the topic of grief and help others understand a bit more about the grieving journey. We sometimes talk about SUDEP along the way, and it certainly helped me understand the grieving process. It's something that I know Mum would have done if she was alive and in my situation, with her passion for helping others. And I like to think that I'm using her legacy to carry her memory forward by helping other people cope with grief and loss. As we honour our loved ones today and as we remember them, I want to share a quote with you that Mum used to always say, and I draw strength from it on difficult days. She used to say to me, accept the things that you cannot change and change the things that you can. And that's something that I carry forward with me when I need a little bit of strength. And while losing Mum will always be painful, I know that she'd want me to use this experience to help raise awareness of SUDEP and hopefully reduce the risks for other families. As Paulo Coelho once said, we never lose our loved ones. They accompany us. They don't disappear from our lives. We are merely in different rooms. I'm holding you all in my thoughts today as you remember your loved ones.
To those whom I love and those who love me, by Anonymous. When I am gone, release me, let me go. I have so many things to see and do. You mustn't tie yourself to me with too many tears, but be thankful we had so many good years. I gave you my love and you can only guess how much you've given me in happiness. I thank you for the love that you have shown, but now it is time I travel on alone. So grieve me for a while if grieve you must, then let your grief be comforted by trust. It is only for a while that we must part, so treasure the memories within your heart. I won't be far, for life goes on, and if you need me, call and I will come. Though you can't see or touch me, I will be near, and if you listen with your heart, you'll hear, and all my love around you, soft and clear. And then when you come this way alone, I'll greet you with a smile and a welcome home.
My name's Andrew Miller. Glenda and I's daughter Rosie died on November the 30th, 2013. She died of, we believe, SUDEP. She had epilepsy since she was 4, and it was very sudden. I guess the thing about SUDEP and epilepsy is that there's always a need for more funding, more research. There is a need for a great deal of more information about this particular condition. And I suppose in terms of SUDEP, it's a very hard one because there's no real evidence to show what actually happens. So it comes as a great shock. I mean, I know any death of any child comes as a shock, but when it's unexpected or when there seems to be no evident cause, then it's so much harder. I suppose the first 12 months of our bereavement was really just a blur in a lot of ways. I started full-time work after having a period of time off work or working part-time. And I think that really helped me to have some sort of focus in my life. So it was a time when really we were still grieving very deeply. We were still going through what this all meant. Rosie was an only child, is an only child. We don't have any other sons or daughters. So all of those things come to the fore, all of those things about what the future now looks like, what the future looked like when she first died. It really was quite a devastating time for us both, me as well. I suppose in a lot of ways, just really coming to terms with that, really trying to find out what it all meant and how to deal with it. So it's coming up for 9 years in November this year. The grief changes over time. It doesn't lessen. There are still times when I feel her death extremely strongly. I do feel as though she's around at times, and I just really miss a sense of who she was. I miss the sense of humour she had. I miss the potential future that is lost when something like this happens. It robs you initially of a future. It robs you of grandchildren. It robs you of seeing them doing those things that you hope they will do as a natural course of things. There are some ways in which I do remember her more than others. She had a number of iPods which a friend put music onto, or various boyfriends and a family friend. And I'll listen to that music and I'll be reminded of her. So all the songs that she used to love and play, I'll listen to when I'm in the car. And I find that a particular comfort. I think there are also things that have helped me in coming to terms with what has happened. I'll never accept it in the sense that it's never acceptable. It's not an acceptable thing. But we belong to a group called the Compassionate Friends, who are supportive of people of bereaved parents, and they have various groups that you can go to, and also they have sessions on a regular basis to talk about various topics around grief. So we have found that, and I have found that particularly helpful to come to terms with it. I think knowing more and learning more about epilepsy and trying to also bring awareness to the condition is an important part of coming through some of that grief and coming through some of the worst parts of it. It feels as though there is, in a sense, something that can be done, and events like the memorial service are one way of actually helping people who are maybe a little not so far down the road as I am, to explain and to talk to them and say, your grief will change. It won't lessen in a sense, but you will learn to live around it. You will learn to live with it. It becomes a part of you. It is a part of you. It always will be a part of you. But you build around it, and it just becomes part of who you are, just as you have various characteristics of the person you are. So it's a very, very long process. It does get a little easier over time, and I guess I say that to those who are newly bereaved, who have suffered and who have feeling this in such a raw way, and even to those who are further down the track. And when you're somewhere in the middle and you're somewhere going along that path, and you know in reality that the person is dead, you're not going to see them anymore, you can take comfort in the fact that you can remember who they were in terms of photos, in terms of just seeing things that you might remind you of him or her. So it does get easier in some ways. Some things will always remain, some things will always be difficult, some things will always be there, but we can laugh about some of the things Rosie used to say. We can enjoy some of the places she went to. We can look to assist and support EFV in whatever way we can. And whether that be through awareness or fundraising or raising awareness around the language of epilepsy and talking about things like not using words like epileptic and fit and pointing those things out when we see them. So there are things that do lessen the grief somewhat, give a sense of purpose, give a sense of meaning to life, to a life which otherwise could be meaningless, because a large part of your purpose is gone. My purpose as a father is gone. My purpose in bringing her through into being a productive and functioning adult in society. So I guess the message that I take from such Memorial Days is the fact that it is a time to reflect on the loved ones who have died. It is a time to hear other folks' stories. It is a time to think about what it is, what needs to be done, what more needs to be done. It is a time to be educated and gain further education about epilepsy and all of the things that flow from it. So it is a valuable time. More so it's a time of reflection. It's a time of quietness, and it's a time to sit and think about what it all means and map out a path for the future as well, I think, to help to really spend some time to see what others are doing, hear what others are doing, support others, be there for them, walk alongside them. Sometimes you don't have to say anything, sometimes you just have to be there and just to remember the happy times, remember the good times, remember the fun times. There are sad times too, but to just think back on the person who has died, your son or daughter, your parent, or whoever it is who has died, and to know that you're even more so among friends, because it is a small club to which we belong, not only as being bereaved parents or me as a bereaved father, but for people whose loved ones, whose family have died as a result of epilepsy-related conditions. So it is a time when we can really come together and really support each other. Thank you.
The warmth of the candles lit here today offer a simile for each of us. A light for a time, candlelight strengthens and grows and shines out into the world around us. Then after a while, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter, as the wick burns down, the wax melts away, the flame dwindles, finally goes out, and life is over. So to light one candle from another can be to signify the time that we shared together, the things that we created, the memories. It's light like the warmth of our love, friendship, of kindness and laughter, and all of the unique lessons we shared, and the journeys and unique experiences that we went on together. So with those words in mind, I'd like to light a candle for those who have passed and invite you at home to do the same if you have one and would like to as well.
I thank the families who shared their stories with us. Our celebrant, Julian Bamford, for his comforting words, Jason Rajat for his reading, and Lapines Q for allowing the use of this beautiful chapel. And especially all of you who joined with us today. Death leaves us a heartache no one can heal. Love leaves us a memory no one can steal.